Hello everyone and welcome to another video with Immigrate with French. So this video is for those who have made the decision that they want to switch from the TEF Canada to the TCF Canada exam, especially if you have been doing the TEF Canada exam for several times and the results appear to be quite random. Like, for example, sometimes you get, some sections up, the second time you go to improve the other two sections and you find that the sections that were good have been destroyed and the results are completely random each time. So you have decided that I've had enough with this TEF Canada exam, I'm going to shift to TCF Canada exam. So this video is to tell you what to expect and how you can use the knowledge that you have built in the TEF Canada exam to ace this TCF Canada exam and save your PR. So if you are in this situation, if you are in this position, let me tell you first of all not to worry, because the knowledge that you have built from studying French, learning French to pass the TEF Canada exam is not going to be wasted. You don't have to start completely from scratch. The vocabulary and the grammar, or the vocabulary and grammar that you have learned for the TEF Canada exam will be completely required for the TCF Canada exam. So this effort is not wasted. It's important to know that whatever you have learned for the TEF Canada exam will be very valuable for the TCF Canada exam. So now what to expect when you are shifting to the TCF Canada exam, or how to go about it and how can you make this shift. Number one, I'm going to start with the writing and speaking, because these are expression écrite, expression orale. These are the sections that most candidates usually worry about most in the exam. So I'll start with them and then I'll talk about the listening and reading. So for the expression écrite, we'll have 3 sections in the exam, and this is going to be completely non-fiction. So if you are a person who was struggling with writing fait divers in TEF Canada exam, you don't know how to write a good fait divers, no matter how many times you try, no matter how many tips you get, no matter how many examples you see, you still get stuck with writing logical and well-written fait divers, then I think that the TCF Canada exam will be better for you, because the 3 sections are completely non-fictional. So the first one is you have to write a message or an email. So usually something like your friend is visiting your city and you're telling them about the things that they can do in it, or they have asked you to book an accommodation for them and you are talking to them about where you have booked and what it is like. Task 1 ranges between 60 and 120 words. Task 2, you have to write a blog or an article about an experience you have had. So for example, you have been to a yoga class, or you have been to some party, and you are going to write an article about it, and the number of words range between 120 to 150 words. And in task 3, you have 2 parts. So you're going to see 2 documents or 2 paragraphs with opposing opinions. So for example, they are talking about whether we should impose reading on kids or not. So you'll find like the first paragraph will say that yes, actually it's very important to encourage kids to read from early age to develop this habit. For example, the second paragraph will say something that no, we shouldn't impose anything on kids, because the more you impose something, for example, the more they hate it, or they decide not to do it, or whatever. So you'll find two opposing opinions about whatever topic, and your goal is to do 2 things. Number 1 is to summarize these 2 paragraphs, and number 2 is to give your own opinion about it. So when you think about it, definitely you need to start working and start practicing the writing section of the TCF Canada exam to be familiar with the different topics, with the different possibilities, and to also master writing or finishing these 3 tasks in 1 hour. So it's very important to the time and to write the 3 topics in 1 hour, so that you don't waste time on, for example, 2 of the topics, and then for the 3rd topic you don't have enough time to write it properly. So for task 3, I think that it's a bit similar to, it has a bit of similarity to task 2 of the TEF Canada exam. I mean, in TEF Canada exam, for example, there was also like 1 topic whether we should impose reading on kids, for example, or should we involve reading novels in school, for example, and you were supposed to agree or disagree and write reasons. That was in the TEF Canada exam. Here you will mostly have to summarize the 2 documents that you have, each in kind of 1 line or 1 sentence, and then give your opinion. So it is a bit related to what we have done in the TEF Canada exam. Now, the speaking part, you will have 3 sections. The first section will usually be introducing yourself. So it will be that you'll either have to talk about introducing yourself, talk about yourself and your goals in 2 minutes. It will and or follow-up questions. So usually the examiner will follow up with some questions to know more about you, or can even replace the entire activity by just having a discussion with you where they will pose some questions about yourself and you have to answer within 2 minutes. So in this case, you will have to talk about several things, like definitely your name, your age, what you have studied, where, why you want to go to Canada, and maybe they will ask you some things about where do you see yourself after maybe 5 years. Tell me about your job, tell me about what you like to do in your spare time, tell me about your character traits, like what you like to do, what you don't like to do, or why you like your job, something like that. So it will be so task 1 is usually something that you go to the exam knowing what to expect, even though you don't know exactly whether the examiner will let you totally introduce yourself and then they'll ask a couple of follow-up questions, or will completely use the time to ask questions, but it's still more or less about yourself. So if you prepare very well and if you know very well how to talk about yourself, your personality, your goals, why you want to go to Canada, then I think you should be very ready for task 1. Task 2, questions, and it is a bit quite similar to the questions task in the TEF Canada exam, where we have to post questions about an ad that we see. Here the ad it's not going to be an ad, it will just be one line, will be something like, for example, a friend and you want to buy my kid a present, so ask me some questions to help you, for example, buy a gift for them. So it will not have the details the way we had in the TEF Canada exam. The ad will usually have several details, but here it will not be like that. And the good news is you will have 2 minutes preparation time, and then you have to ask questions in 3.5 minutes. So you start very well with introducing yourself in task 1. Then you move to task 2, you have 2 minutes to prepare, and then you have shorter time to speak, 3.5 minutes, where you ask questions. So if you are moving from TEF Canada exam to TCF Canada exam, then you are already aware of how to ask questions, and you have already mastered how to ask questions in a professional context. So what you have to build on is to see how to ask questions in an amicable or in a casual or informal context. So this is the second part, to master questions in an informal context. Just have to work on this part, and then you are going to be ready for task 2. Task 3 is one you have to practice a bit more. It is going to be that you have to give your opinion about a certain argument and talk about it in 4.5 minutes. So again, for example, it will be, can we live without internet nowadays? Or maybe it will be something like, should we impose reading on children nowadays? And you have to talk about this topic for 4.5 minutes. And I believe also that our experience with the TEF Canada exam task 2 in the writing, where you have to give your opinion and justify with 3 arguments, will give you, has trained you to be able to talk about the different topics in French. So you can use you can use a lot of what you have learned in the TEF Canada exam to be able to talk about this task. Of course, you have to practice as much as you can. You have to adjust speaking for 4.5 minutes, especially that it is without preparation. So once you see the topic, you just have to think about it for a few seconds and immediately get started. So there is no prep time, there's no preparation time. So you have to get started. So you have to practice this. However, what I'm saying is that the effort that you have put in TEF Canada exam task 2 in writing will come very handy in this speaking task. So another advantage that you will find when you move from the TEF Canada exam to the TCF Canada exam is the points. We know exactly how much each question is. So if we are talking about the writing, then the task 1 is worth 6 points, task 2 6 points, and task 3 8 points, and the same for speaking. Task 1 6 points, task 2 6 points, and task 3 will be worth 8 points. Shift from the TEF Canada exam to the TCF Canada exam, as you see, there are several points where whatever you have learned will come again into picture in the TCF Canada exam and will become very helpful and will help you to save the time to move to that exam easily. Regarding the reading and the listening, you definitely have to, in the same way, you have to practice all the available samples. A very good website to practice for TCF Canada exam would be the reusirtcf.com. I'm going to share it on the screen here now. And they have so many examples, or they have so many samples of exams. You have to answer all of them. You have to learn, definitely you have to make, as I always say, you have to make tables of vocabulary. You have to put the word and the meaning, and you have to revise them regularly to improve learning vocabulary, which will be very handy for everything, but especially here for reading and for listening. But definitely you can also use it in the speaking and the writing to improve your level. So this is how you work on the reading and listening. And don't worry, in the TCF Canada exam, there are no like patterns of questions. It's mostly straightforward, shorter questions that will go from an easier level to more difficult level as you go through the exam. So which means that you will start from the very easy questions, and the exam will get harder, and the last 4 questions in the exam are the hardest. So it goes like this in a very expected manner of difficulty. It's not like the TEF Canada exam where we'll get some, for example, harder, and then sometimes you get an easy question and then harder, and it keeps going up and down. But in the TCF Canada exam, no, it actually goes from easier to harder. So you need to practice all the samples available, master the reading and listening, and who knows, maybe you also get some questions repeated in the exam. 2 bonus points to expect if you are shifting to the TCF Canada exam is number 1, there are paper version available in some centers. So if you are a person who does not like to type on the computer, then you can definitely switch or choose the paper version. And another advantage is that in the TCF Canada exam, you are officially entitled to get a reevaluation for the human graded sections of the exam, which are the speaking and the writing. And this is a very good one because you have done very well in the exam, but your scores do not really reflect your performance, then you should definitely go for re-evaluation, and another examiner will check your exam and will grade it again. And who knows, especially if you have only needed a little bit more, then this can make a big difference in your result between having to repeat the exam and being eligible for the French draws. So I think this is another major advantage of the TCF Canada exam that you can also take into consideration. I hope I have answered some of your questions or have some of your doubts if you are trying to make this transition between the TEF Canada exam to the TCF Canada exam and you don't know where to start from. And I wish you all the best of luck with whichever exam you decide to go with. This is not to tell you that you should shift, but I'm just saying if you make the decision to make the transition, then I would like to just give you some ideas on what to expect. Please let me know in the comments if you have any more questions, and I'll see you in the next video.